Alrighty, well, hello everybody, my name is DeathGunX19 Remaster, and this is a very different video than what I would usually make, but stay with me here. This is basically just like my one-time review. If you guys actually kind of like this kind of content, then please subscribe, maybe put a like on the video, and comment down below if you even want more of this. But, I will say this though, everything that I say is all pertained into this one game. I do not have any hate towards the developers of this game, anybody that is associated with the game, or even Yahaha themselves. I got this copy because I already told them that the game didn't work. They gave me a copy, and so here I am doing a review of it. And if you guys want like the short version, then I'm gonna just say this. The game is very short, and all you really have to do is just complete a couple of puzzles, put like some specific things down, and well, that's the end of the game. But if you're here for like the extra details, then here we go. The very first thing that you very much do is like start out in like this whole entire area where it's basically just like this long hallway, if not maybe like I guess you could say like long pathway actually, to go into this house and then complete a couple of the puzzles. The first one is basically easy, as you will see in the video, like right here. You can see me literally like putting the book in between all the rest of the books and putting all the other books like down after I did that. And that's relatively simple, but from what I saw from like other people as well is that they also had difficulties trying to figure out the puzzles as well. And that's like the main thing about this whole entire thing. But I'm stepping ahead again. I'm stepping ahead of myself. However, I did have a little bit of trouble turning on like my yeah, my little lighter. You know, that little lighter that you just flick and then it just turns on. I had a little bit of trouble with that. That's probably with my own ignorance because I didn't look at the instructions. But for anybody else that actually may have got interested in the game and saw that it was like pretty interesting, I'll just say that it's not really that interesting. Like I do like the graphics and everything, and it is you know solid, but it's not really with a lot of substance. I'll say that much. Anyway, as I was saying though, my bad. As I was saying though, is that this whole entire thing is kind of tedious because you have to light up some candles. You have to make sure that you get like a specific like vase item to put in the very middle so then you can get into the portal and then that's it. I mean like you could turn like the radio on. I think that triggers like the bride, if I may call her that, the bride to like show up at the very end of like the pathway, which is like the very same pathway that you took, but now she's standing in it. Next section is basically where you're in a Buddha section, and it did get me a couple of times, like some of the jump scares and loud noises kind of got me, but it felt, it just kind of felt very nuanced or like stale. Like, again, I did say before that it did get me a couple of times, but that's only because of like the randomness of just like the noise coming out, and that's really about it. Like none of it really scared me. Like I got more relaxed, if not bored, than anything. However, in this whole entire Buddha stage, you have to you have to get like a couple of items from like the lighter again. You have to get like some candles and make sure that you got like I think like some no, I think it's just the candles and you light them. I could be wrong, but I know there's probably like something else that you also do as well, like checking like the coffin, but that's not really anything important. And then you get to move on to like the final stage, if not maybe like the ceremony stage. Oh, Jesus. Fucking Christ. That kind of spooked me a little bit. Now it comes in two parts. First part, you have to literally turn up all the burners and then get them to where you can actually be able to well, of course like turn them all on, but as soon as you turn them all on, then you got to look for the crowbar and then open that up. So then you can open up the then you can open up like the what was it called? Yeah, the casket or like the coffin. So then After that, part two comes in where you have to get like a couple of candles, one burner, and even like teacups to offer to the parents. Which I honestly thought would be pretty cool in concept of like this whole entire thing. But I'll save my actual end thoughts for the end because I don't want to be mean to the developers and whatnot. Because I do kind of see some potential here, even though it's very shilly made. I say that respectively, of course. Like I said, I do not have any quarrels, I do not have any hate, and most of all, I do not 100%. I'm gonna say that again. I'm gonna say this again. I 100% do not hate anybody that made this game. I'm giving my own criticisms, and this is my own opinions. I say this with the utmost respect to any developers that are out there. You guys are amazing. Just this game in particular that I got interested in kind of didn't live up to my expectations. And everybody has different expectations. All right? Let's move on. Anyway, as you set down all these items, then you have to of course go all the way to like the very end where you just meet up with the bride and well, game over. Like you just walk out and then she just like, is like an overview or just viewing you from like afar. And it's a very creepy scene. I'll say that. It's kind of a very creepy scene. Just the only thing that doesn't really make it that, interesting is that yeah, I mean like it just kind of cuts off at like a to be continued. So maybe they're going to make another one another game about this. I could be wrong. But let's just get into my thoughts now. So my thoughts are is that this game is very much a 5 out of 10. Now, I know in like Galliot's video, I will put a link in her. Yeah, I will put a link in the description below to actually view her video. But as I state, the I guess it was because I was so excited and whatnot to actually be able to be sponsored or semi-sponsored actually to actually again be able to do this. But after like actually playing it myself and actually able to like have it on a hands-on kind of feel, it like I said kind of just felt annoying if not maybe just boring to do because again, apart from some of the jump scares that did get me, it kind of really wasn't that great. I know maybe I said a 6 out of 10, but this is actually a 5 out of 10 and isn't really worth your money. Now, I'm gonna say, and I already said it before, was saying like developers that are amazing and they are practically still amazing people that make video games. But this particular video game, I feel like was just like put into the oven for like 15 seconds, if not maybe a minute or so, and then pulled out and said like, yes, here's what I would have probably done. And again, I'm gonna say it one last time. This is just my opinion. You don't have to take it as yours. You don't have to 100% agree with me. We are all people. We all have our own specific like ideas of what a game should do, what a character should do, and what a whole entire like, gameplay loop can be. But I feel like at the very beginning, it actually is kind of a good start. Like you're confused, you don't know where you are, and you're pretty much like in this void where there's a house, a pathway to that house, and lanterns that light up the whole entire thing. It would have been pretty cool, and I know they don't have any voice actors, but of course, I still kind of think it's a little bit interesting that while you're solving like a puzzle or two, I would have liked that the actual developers of this game might have cooked it a little bit longer, if not maybe like work some things around. Like I do like the puzzle aspect of like putting the book in and then trying to get like some other stuff done. It would have probably worked out if maybe it was like an escape room, you know? Cuz I'm gonna just say this is that if you actually do get the game yourself, whether by pirating, which I do not condone, or actually paying the game, it's kind of a little bit difficult because while it's while in current build, you really can't actually sense that you're doing something or like what I'm just trying to say is that the actual item that you have with you, like whether it's a key or a book or maybe even like yeah, like a vase or something, you have to be very specific of where you go. Now, I would have liked if like the developers actually like put like a little box around where you need it. So whenever you like, hover over it, it actually like, lights up. And after a while, maybe even if you like, you're very confusing and dazed, maybe it could have pointed you by like a specific glowing light. Maybe like how the lanterns were like leading you into the whole entire little house. But as it stands, it's very much like if you're not in the right position with your mouse, it kind of fucks you up because at one point or another, I actually was a little bit like dazed or confused because I was trying to put down like the burner. I knew it was in front of the coffin, but I was like, wait, is there somewhere else I need to put it? Thinking like maybe something has changed, but no. It was still the same. I just wasn't in the right spot for it. That's one thing I would probably change. Another one is probably a little bit of the story as well. But there's also maybe other things that I can do with the mechanics as well. But again, as I said, these are just my opinions, alright? I probably would start off with like, again, just this whole entire stage and probably have like the book be inserted, but not do the vase and just have like, I don't know, a cutscene play where like, have you guys ever seen like those games where they have like all those text box and all those little like things? Think of like Undertale, Deltarune, even l- um or even like some visual novels that even like do like little sound effects or like little sound bites that, you know, would let you know which character is speaking. Like if somebody had a deep voice, it would be like "Bop-a-da-bop-bop-bop-bop-bop," or even like some kind of like female voice that would be like "Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba," or something like that, Just something to make sure that the player is actually staying engaged while completing like all these puzzles and other stuff that is within the game. Another thing is that I do like the character of like the bride. However, I feel like she's not even like that present, or at least again through my own playthrough, she really wasn't that present. And I will admit to myself as well as to like Yahaha that it's kind of underwhelming. Like again, as I said before, I did get jump scared, but that's only because it was just random. Like all the other jump scares that I saw throughout the playthrough were just like booga booga, and then just not really that great. I would have done it as like maybe a survivor horror kind of like aspect, trying to get these puzzles done, Like go into a cupboard, hide, see if she like, is weeping or something. And then once you don't hear the weeping or don't hear her footsteps, then you get out and complete the rest of the puzzles if she's not there guarding it. I would have liked something like that. I mean, like, heck, it would have been cool if, like, maybe they got like some sound files of a woman crying, laughing hysterically, or maybe even like you know, maybe just a sound bit of just like "Where are you?" or something like that. Just something to it in case that there is danger. And I feel like the story is barely even like noticeable as well, because from what I gather, it's basically you getting married to a ghost, and that's not really that appealing. Like, okay, I'll just say this: it is kind of appealing in one aspect, but it's not really in another. Like, it is appealing that you're getting married to a ghost, and I feel like the main character should be like, "Whoa, okay, hold on, you're asking me, a living human being right now, to marry you, a spirit from the other side." Like, something like that instead of just like generic character stuff. Like, the writing also has to fit with like the game's story as well. But again, it could be just me. And the other things that I probably would change as well is like maybe going to just about like 3 or 4 stages, and that's really about it. You're just done. And besides, even like the last one where you're just walking out is kind of just again underwhelming. It's not really that great at all. Like, I still would probably put in my own words that it should, not 100%, because again, maybe the developer would disagree on me on this, or maybe they're still inexperienced. As I said, I still give them all a lot of respect because this game was made, but of course, this is just my criticisms and my own opinions. I do not hate them in any way, shape, and form, and I will not hate anybody that is making games. But this one in particular, I just feel like needs to have like some extra substance to it. Otherwise, it's just a mediocre game, if not maybe just like below average or even below average actually. I also feel like the settings is actually kind of interesting. I would have liked if like the Buddha section wasn't just like go grab this, go grab that, as well as like the rest of like the the first stage. But I feel like the first stage could probably get like a pass, because if you put all the books in, then maybe it could have been like in a bookshelf. Then you would have saw like this weird shrine looking area, and then it just moves out of the way as well. And then finally it reveals a portal. The character gets confused, and then maybe gets pushed in by the bride to to get him confused, dazed, or maybe even like a little bit of like a quick jump scare. I don't know, something like that. And I do like the whole entire Buddha area. Like, it's very appealing to the eye, at least to me, of course. But I still feel like it's not really that amazing. Because, yeah, it did go to, like, creepy Buddha music and did kind of, like, do a creepy atmosphere where they're chanting. And, well, of course, I do kind of find that intimidating, if not maybe, like, again, frightening. But it doesn't really work in this specific aspect because it really is just like a quick in and out for me. Like, I already know what to do, but for other players, it might actually scare them a little bit, if not maybe make them confused. Because, especially with like Gally, she was, I think, like very frustrated, if not maybe like very, very, you know, just utterly confused. And honestly, I would be very confused too if I was a first time player just wanting this whole entire game. And even I would love if like the objectives were like way more simpler of just like go get item and stuff like that. Like, not like dependent on notes. Because that's another thing about the gameplay as well, is that you're collecting notes and seeing what the hell you need to do. Even with Galley being like my eyes and being like a specific like demo of what I'm gonna be playing, I honestly was just a little bit, again, a little bit weirded out. Sorry, I was yawned. It was a little bit weird. I did feel weirded out, but it's still not like a very great experience to just, be walking around for maybe hours on end and trying to find like a specific area that if you're not standing in the right spot or standing I mean like using your cursor to actually go to where the hotspot is, then you're practically fucked. Like you're not getting it, and you're probably just gonna rage quit anyway. As I said before, maybe it could have used elements from like other horror games to like hiding closets. Maybe she's saying like, "Where are you, my love?" Or maybe even giving like a sense of urgency. Again, maybe giving a survival horror vibe, or maybe even something more. Because as this is, it's basically just kind of like a boring looking escape room. That's all I can really say. Because, again, I do like the aesthetics, I do like the graphics, but again, unless they actually have, like, maybe some, you know, more depth to the characters and more, stuff to do, then maybe it would have been better. But as it stands, as I said, it's just a boring, like, escape room that you just do this, do that, da 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 da, get a couple scares, and then that's really about it. I guess I could probably say with like the others. I think like one last thing I'd probably change is that like put everything to interact with E, because that's the one thing that I actually don't like about like Yahaha, or at least like one game that I tried, and then this one is that you have to use F. And even though yes, I do like using like F or maybe even changing it to E, it doesn't give you that option in the options menu. So it's a little bit frustrating and maybe even a little bit like, well, odd, mostly. Like, I'm not really saying it's that frustrating, but it is mildly annoying. But other than that, though, I still feel like it could actually benefit from a couple of other things and whatnot. But I'm gonna just summarize them so I can just get you guys out of my hair. And sorry if I wasted you guys' time just bragging on about this. So, storyline. I'd probably make it to where the bride is chasing after you, trying to make you hers. And, at the very end of it, while you survive all her obstacles of, like, death pits, maybe like finding specific, puzzles to do to unlock more areas, and maybe even finding like a specific key to go to that door so then you can escape. Her clutches, and then at the very end, she's basically in like that all, that area where everybody's around her and you get to like offer like the cups of tea and whatnot, and even like the guests are there. I still feel like, in my own opinion, I still feel like that that whole entire section could have been like a choice based decision of just like, do you go with her or do you leave her? Like, do you marry her and just like go to like the bad ending, or go out and actually live your life and still, get the good ending or something like that? Again, these are just all my opinions, all right? Second thing is that the gameplay should reflect what I just said about like, trying to hide from her, trying to make sure that you don't get like, caught by her. Maybe even like put in like specific like little entities to maybe like, capture you, or maybe even like implement her plans to go and get you. So that's a whole entire like other thing as well. And the other mechanics, I mean, like it should be pretty simple. Like, just hiding, running from a monster, go into a closet, hide under a bed, maybe even like, hide into a closet or something like that, and just be done with it. And then, go out and do your stuff again. And the last thing that I want to say is like the last little bit of like, yeah, the last little bit should be that whoever made this, you still really did a good job with like a whole bunch of stuff, especially with like the settings and like the Buddha statues and even like some of the lanterns that I saw around. Those settings were pretty damn good. I will say that much. Like, I don't know what asset you bought, or whoever bought it for you, or whatever could go on in behind the scenes. But I really think they could have really benefited from like the story I just said. If not, maybe another alternate storyline that could reflect a better game for like the price point of this. However, I'm still gonna say that it still is pretty interesting, and it is very much a interesting concept of like a, ghost woman wanting you. And besides, I mean, like, shit, there could be a whole lot of fan art about this if you guys actually get it right. I mean, like, look at Lady Dimitrescu. She literally is a tall ass vampire lady based on Hachisaku sama, I bet, and is literally hunting you down. Could have been the same thing here. Like a woman literally wanting you to marry her, even though she's from beyond the grave. But I'm gonna say right now, as I'm gonna say, it's only these. Yeah, these are only my opinions, and I could be wrong on any of those points. Whether on like the, specific like attention to try and get like the items there to their proper places, trying to figure out like where to go right after you've done a puzzle, and most importantly, trying like, to comprehend the story is kind of just a little bit dull and lackluster. But again, if they actually like rework this game into like what I said, into like a survival horror game, or maybe just like a nice little horror game that you could get in, get out, and then just go on about your merry way after doing that. But other than that though, I still hope you guys like, comment, subscribe. If you guys don't like what I said, again, you don't have to watch this. This is just experimental, because I took the opportunity to go and ask these guys. Yaha, if you're listening, I took the time, or should I say, you guys took the time to actually gift me the game, and I do really appreciate it. I do really hope that the game actually like maybe gets like a revise, or maybe a revamp, maybe even like, an entirely different game than this. And most importantly, I do hope those fucking assets that I saw, like fucking Unity assets or whatever they look like, literally get deleted out of the game. Because you guys need to, if you guys are gonna go leaning into the Chinese mythology side, you gotta go full on in. Like, I don't know, put like an American or something like that, and put him just in this scenario of just like this Chinese mythology horror game. But like I said, it's just my opinions. I could be wrong. There could be other complications, and it could be just like the very first time for this developer. And I do apologize if it is a little bit too mean, if not maybe like, taking a sucker punch to your gut or face or anywhere else. But as I said, hopefully you guys like, comment, subscribe. If you guys don't like this review, I mean, hey, I'll just continue with just playing games, alright? I'll just continue with that. And most importantly is that I do really hope that this game does get like a specific like rework, is made into a proper horror game, and does actually take advantage of like the whole entire setting that it has, because I feel like it would actually benefit better if it does have like horror, survival horror elements. It doesn't need guns, it doesn't need too much, just a good story, a good jump scare to maybe even like specific like hauntings that could happen, and maybe even, a good, yeah, a good way to implement those. But until then, I don't know, I'll wait until the future. Maybe I'll get like, a bunch of hate from Yahaha and maybe never work with them again. But as it still stands, I'll wait until the next time I'm able to review something very, very professionally. Have a good day, and I wish you all a good afternoon, midnight, or fucking evening. I don't know. Bye!